So, guys, I think I made a little bit of a credit card points and miles mistake recently, and I wanted to talk more openly about it so this way I could look like the fool, so this way you don't have to. And much like every other mistake I've ever made in this entire history of the channel, or just my points and miles game over the past 6 or 7 years of being in this game, I like to highlight it and put it all on the channel. I even have a whole playlist here of all my mistakes, so this way you guys can learn from it and we're all smarter at the end of the day. Now, the mistake I made was in relation to this video I made a couple of weeks ago, talking through some of the theories on why I might possibly upgrade to the Chase Sapphire Reserve, and I laid out some facts and calculations and stuff like that based on my own current situation, as I normally do. Now, spoiler alert, this does relate to how I literally just booked the Emirates A380 business class from JFK to Milan. Yes, that actually just happened, and it's a 6.6 cent per point redemption. It's absolutely insane. $11,000 flight. It's absolutely crazy, and it's going to change my life. Now, part of the mistakes I made and what I want to share with you guys is the struggle that I went to book this flight. Now, a little bit later in this video, I'm going to go through that struggle and exactly how you can book this way easier than I did, being such a novice at all this. But it all related to this video. Now, in this video, the Sapphire Reserve, I did make some good points on, okay, if I'm going to be using my points, all my chase points that I have, if I'm going to use it through the portal, that 0.25x multiplier on top of the Sapphire prefers through the portal can result in like an extra $1,000 worth of value. And so it can make sense if at that point in my theory that I was going to become more of what you would call, I guess, a portal warrior, to somebody redeeming all your points through the portal. Now, in that video, I kind of spoke through just exactly like my struggles on looking through a million different airlines and looking for availability for business class because I've been wanting to take an international trip for so long now. So I was looking on British Airways, Air Canada, Alaska, I was on Air France, Cathay. I was on all of these different airlines trying to find flights and trying to figure out how can I actually book this business class? And one thing I found throughout that process is it was impossible. It was absolutely impossible because I was just searching endlessly with no tools, just, by hand, manually, just searching each date. Okay, there's nothing, there's nothing, there's nothing. The times I would find some business class flights, they would all be in the millions of points or hundreds and hundreds of thousands of points, not the ones I hear touted out there like, oh, here's 60K for this business class here or 80K here. I never really found that. And part of that was, even though I'm so in this game, like, right, I've been in this game for 7 years. I've been traveling the United States and mostly the East Coast, up and down it for the last 7 years between my wife and I. But we've never flown internationally. So the rules change. And the way you actually go to book certain things internationally, it's so different than how you're booking things domestically. And I think in the middle of me trying to find all of these flights and my ignorance to the right way to actually do it, I ended up interconnecting the ideas of simplicity and domestic travel and international travel abroad, where I was actually stating, like, hey, do I want to use these chase points? How am I going to transfer them? Or I forget what I actually said, but I said something like using my points for international travel, which through the portal, yeah, I mean, it's 1.5 cents per point with reserve, but pales in comparison to what's possible if you just know how to do it in the first place. And so going through this experience of actually finding this A380 Emirates business class flight has illuminated to the fact that I was speaking from such ignorance in that way, and I just don't want anyone to take that as gospel. It was mostly just theory and just wanting to show you guys exactly what I would do differently had I actually known some of these things that I've learned over the past few days and consulting with some folks. And something else I said that I just feel very silly about looking back now, literally just 2 weeks ago, is that I mentioned the fact that, you can't find these business class flights directly from Greenville, which is my home airport. And I was like, oh, I would hate to do, a positioning flight. Meanwhile, no matter what you do, these business class flights are not going to be flying from your home airport, and it literally takes just a couple of seconds to book a flight like Delta to Atlanta, and then I could take Atlanta abroad, or take a flight again, Delta or whoever actually will go there to JFK, and then take that flight over there. It's literally like the smallest amount of work, and I don't think I made it the biggest deal, but again, just hearing myself say it in hindsight just seems very silly. So I wanted to say that transparently as well. And which goes back to the same thing. It's like, okay, if you want to use the portal for whatever reason, if you can find an easier flight that way, sure, go through the portal, get your 1.25x, book your flight to whatever that main major airport hub would be, and then use your miles and transfer partners and all those different things to book that business class flight. It's like not a big deal. So like, I just feel very silly having said that. But of course, just want to highlight it so I don't ever make that mistake again. So that that was the mistake. The mistake was I was conflating the idea of simplicity portal and that you should just connect that to also business class travels, where that's not the right way to do it. I'm convinced now. Okay, I understand I'm in the space. Everybody talks about this. Maybe I'm a little bit hard headed, but again, I'm going to make myself the fool so you don't have to. And so what I've really found is the right way to do a lot of these things. Now, first and foremost, I didn't know about timing. For business class flights, I didn't realize that you're supposed to be looking out, 11, 12, 13 months away. Like whenever these flights are really like starting to open up is when you're going to start looking for these business class flights. So whatever date it is now, right? It's February 26th, I think, when I'm filming right now. I should be looking at next January, February, March, something like that. Whenever these flights are actually opening up to find business class flights, that was something I learned. I didn't realize that I was looking around dates every time I went to go check for business class flights. I was only like 4 to 7 months away, something like that. Now, spoiler alert, I did book this 7 months away, and I was lucky. But I'll explain how I was able to do that. So first and foremost, if you're having troubles like I did, I'm assuming if I had the trouble, a lot of people did too. But if you're having troubles finding flights, it's probably because it's too soon. From what I've heard from all the experts out there, it's usually like within a month or a couple of weeks or a year out. Everything in between is really like almost impossible to find in some cases. Now, on top of impossible to find, how do you make things even more impossible to find? Well, you do everything by hand. You do things manually when you actually have tools that are made for this specific problem that people have been telling me on YouTube for so long. And for some reason, I just don't think to do it. Why? I don't know. What I'm speaking about more specifically is something like seats.arrow and also like points.me, which has a membership right now or a partnership with American Express, where if you have, I think the green as well, but the gold and the platinum, you can actually insert your account here and they'll actually give you basically a free point.me subscription for membership reward points only. So, for example, if I was trying to find a flight from Rome to Atlanta, right? This is actually the route that I'm going to be taking home from this international trip from JFK to Milan and all that. Italy, Paris, all these crazy things we're planning now. And so if I wanted to find that flight in the past, I would just, okay, let me go British Airways. Okay, Air Canada. Let me check Air France. And then obviously you find nothing because you're at a disadvantage. Now, what you do is you just put in these dates, right? You put in, let's say, September 20th. Rome to Atlanta. Okay, we're going to hit search. It'll show you quite literally every flight that is going there, that exact route, for the class that you want. So I have it set to business and first class, 2 passengers, just a one way. So you can see the first example right here. Okay, it's British Airways business. This is always per ticket. When you actually look at point.me, it's per ticket. So this is actually about 250,000 plus $1,000 in taxes to fly this route. I'm not saying I'm taking this route because there are better options, but I'm just saying as an example, here's one that was put out. And so when you actually find this flight, you actually have to do a couple of things. Now, number one, it's going to show you exactly how to book this deal. So if you want to book this one on British Airways, it's going to say, okay, just basically make a British Airways account, transfer your points from Amex points, and then, you find that exact flight and then you book it. But before you do that, you want to make sure that the flight actually exists. That's right, because sometimes these softwares mess up and will actually show what they would call ghost flights, flights that don't actually exist. And so what you want to do is actually go on the local website. So if it's British Airways, go on British Airways, make an account. Okay, so if you want to find that that flight actually exists, well, now that we saw that there was possibly an option of business class in British Airways, we're going to want to search for it on their exact website. So we're going to go right to this page and don't hit check reward flight availability. It doesn't actually take you anywhere. So if you want to hit from, so we're going to do FCO, which is Rome, and then we're going to hit to Atlanta for that exact same flight. And the date was September 20th, right? September 20th. Okay, cool. One way, economy, business, and first, and 2 adults. Okay, so we're going to hit good flights. When you go through this process, it's going to ask you for stopovers. Essentially, a stopover is just allowing you to stay for longer at a particular destination. So this way, some people like to stop over in one particular country, stay for a couple days, then the next flight might be a day later, 2 days later, something like that. So I'm going to hit no. I do not want to continue stopovers because this is my going home flight, theoretically. So then it's going to check availability and we're going to see if this exact flight exists. So remember what we found, right? So let's see, September 20th. And yes, we do have a business class flight here. Now, what did we find? We found on this one, it was 123 each. So that should mean about 246,000 points or miles and then $1,000 in taxes. If we hit this business class flight, Does it actually say that? And wham bam, 244,500 avios, so the miles, plus $1,000 in taxes. So yes, this flight does exist. So in this case, since it does exist, you would go to your Amex travel portal, go to where your points are and where you can transfer points, go to your British Avios, send them over, and then you can book this exact flight. That's all you got to do. That's for the most part, most of the struggle. Most of the struggle is just figuring out where the flights are and how to get there, right? And same thing with Seats That Arrow. Like that's the main thing. The main thing is going on these websites, and I do recommend paying for it. I think Seats That Arrow has a $10 option, and then if you pay the $10 a month, it'll give you a full year out of availability, so you can actually check, a year out for your business class flights. So that's like the biggest struggle. The biggest struggle is finding a destination and then just going on these apps right here and just figuring out, okay, what's the best deal for business class? Like this is business class on this airline, and then maybe it doesn't exist on other airlines, right? And it's kind of just searching through different airports. Like instead of JFK to Milan, let's do JFK to Rome, and a few of those different things. So that's like the biggest struggle. And had I known that and not been, I don't know if he was even stubborn, I just didn't think to do it. I would have realized how much easier this whole process could have been. And I never even probably would have mentioned that video in the first place of a Sapphire Reserve and portal for international travel, because that's the goal for me anyway. It just didn't really make sense. So that's why I wanted to share that with you as well. Now, getting on the topic of this Emirates A380, this insane business class flight, I really actually can't believe I scored it, but it was not with a lot of heartache. So again, I want to share with you the heartache, so this way you don't have to go through the heartache like I did. Now, first and foremost, huge shout out. I got to shout out Mr. Cody, Mr. Cody Little. He's got a video. He's got a YouTube channel where he talks a lot about these things, and he's traveled a lot. You can actually see him on a camel up here. I mean, he's killing it. Cody killing it on the camel, and he in the Venture Capital Discord, which is linked down below. I, on the 24th, put out exactly some of the flights I found, and eventually the only best flights I found through my old dumb method, just kind of like searching and manually going these things, is a premium economy flight, so not even business class, 140,000 miles. So remember 140,000, it's going to come into play in just a couple of minutes. And I said on British Airways via Alaska, because that's what I was searching at. And so a lot of people put their input in here. Michael Wong helped a ton, Filmo helped a ton, and Sunmaster helped a ton. A few guys helped a ton, Tom as well. But this right here, this changed the trajectory, I think, of my entire YouTube channel. So shout out to Cody. He said there's a ton of options from JFK, such as business on Emirates to Milan for 87,000 miles. And then you could fly from GSP to LaGuardia, all these different things, right? But the main thing was this JFK business Emirates. And I was like, okay, how'd you find that a little bit later? And he said, oh, he just using Seats.arrow. He just saw it on there. I was like, oh, that's how easy it actually is. See, Caleb found the flight as well. And I was like, how are these people doing this? How do they know this? I didn't realize that they're just using some of these apps. I get it. I sound like an idiot because I do this every day, right? And so basically, I was like, okay, that's crazy, because I've heard from people that this is the one with the bar on the plane, right? It's in all those movies, that Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler movie, right? They got the bar on the plane. They got these awesome seats. Like, this is amazing. How are we getting this done? So what did I do? I went to Emirates, of course, because I wanted to see, since he found that on Seats.arrow, I wanted to see if that flight existed. So when you're searching on Emirates here, of course, you're going to want to have to log in. You want to hit classic rewards. That just means their points a mile system. We're going to do one way in business class and on the 26th of August. Now, of course, it's a whole other topic to talk about August, Italy. That's not what you want to do. But I'm just showing this as an example. So let's check it out. Let's see what comes up. And bam. So what do we see here, folks? We see that exact flight he was talking about, right? He said 87,000 per person. So we have two people, 174,000 miles plus $212 in taxes and fees. And this is a nonstop flight. Again, JFK to Milan, business class Emirates on the A380. You can see right down here, once again, the one with the bar on it. I gotta stress that. Now remember, 174,000 miles. And remember the flight that I found in the Discord before I went through this whole epiphany. It was 140,000. So it was 140,000 on British Airways, and I only had to spend an extra 34,000 miles. That's insane, and I almost made the biggest mistake of my life by doing that, so shout out to Cody. Now check this out as well. Now remember these taxes and fees and the miles. And then if we click on it, you can see everything that it comes with, and actually remember this as well. Remember it says Flex Plus, because this is insane. So now let's actually turn off the classic rewards and let's see how much it is in cash. So we see 5,700. Okay, that's already a lot, right? But remember we said Flex Plus. This is that exact flight. If you were going to pay cash for the exact flight I just booked with only 174,000 Amex points, essentially, and $200 in taxes, this flight is $11,556 for the exact same flight. I mean, oh my lord. If we just want to, I mean, I'm not one to do cent per point calculations, right? But if we're just going to say $11,556, multiply that by 100 and divide it by the amount of points needed to actually book it, that's a 6.6 cent per point. That's insane. And that's the best redemption I've ever had in my entire life thus far. And that was what I booked. And that's exactly how I booked it. But was it that easy? No, no, it wasn't that easy. Not even close to being that easy. There was a lot of stress involved in this. And had I known better, I would have done this way differently. Now, first and foremost, here's what I did. Amex and Chase both are transfer partners with Emirates. Okay, so but I only had about sub 100,000 Amex points, so it wasn't enough to get me the full 174,000 miles. So instead of like connecting my Amex account and my Chase account, because I assumed the worst and there would be some sort of like issue if I connected both at the same time and started transferring points. So I said, okay, let's take it from my Chase balance. So I went on my Chase account, went to all the points, and I went to Emirates and I went to transfer those points. Now, typically, what I like to do is, and what a lot of people like to do, is to do a test transfer just to make sure everything's connected correctly. My membership account is all correct. So I sent a test transfer of 1,000 miles just to make sure it went through. That was my first mistake. That was my first mistake because, well, even though that is smart to do, and I think it's wise to do test bookings, actually think it's probably smarter to one, watch this video so you know what to do to find airlines that you might want to book in the future, and do that test transaction if you're going to do one before. Do it like weeks before if you can, because I did it one after another. I sent 1,000 miles and it went instantly. I was like, cool, we're connected, baby. All right, send the rest of the 173,000 miles. They were in limbo. That's right. Little did I know that for Emirates specifically, if you send one transaction and then one additionally right after, most people will tell you this is going to trigger a fraud alert. Now, some people dispute whether it's fraud or it's just a back end system issue. I'm just going to call it a fraud alert. So that happened. And so my points didn't transfer instantly. And let me ask you something. How long do you think it actually took for those miles to hit my account? Did it take 12 hours? Did it take 24? Was it 30? No, no. It took quite literally 36 hours from the time I found this flight and sent the points over before it actually got deposited into my Emirates account to be able to book this flight. This causes a huge issue. Now, for someone like me who thinks about the worst case scenario, what am I thinking? This is my one shot to book one of the most highly sought after business class flights in the world, I would say. I think most people say the A380 Emirates or even Etihad is like insane. So I'm like, I really need this. I really want to go international. I want to go to Milan. I want to get my wife a good trip, right? And so what ended up happening? I was like, okay, this is going to be taken from me. Someone is going to swoop in and take this flight from me. Again, Cody, you're the man. Because Cody came in the Discord and he said this. He said, hey, some airlines actually allow you to hold the flight for you. I said, okay, worth a shot. So I said, how is that even possible that you can hold an airline, but you can't even hold like a restaurant nowadays, a fancy restaurant? Can't even get a hold of reservation anymore, but you can hold a whole flight, an $11,000 flight. Yeah, right. And so I called Emirates and I said, hey, I'm transferring points right now. I'm trying to book a flight, but the points haven't come yet. Is there any, can you like hold the flight for me? No hesitation. The guy on the phone was amazing. He said, "Yes, sir, absolutely. So let me just get your itinerary together, and then we can figure out how long we could hold it for." So typically with Emirates, and again, try this with other airlines. I didn't fully do the research on every single airline, so some do it, some don't. Emirates happens to be one that does it. And now typically they're about 24-hour holds, sometimes more on average. So again, with my ignorance, I was like, hey, can we just hold it like maybe like 24 hours? That's probably all I need, right? The points will come through. Little did I know that it was going to come through 36 hours later. So, okay, cool. Good thing he did listen to me, because he said, okay, once we go through with the booking, I'm going to book this flight on your behalf. So the business class, the Flex Plus, $11,000 flight. Yes, we're going to book this via the miles. So he reread back 174,000 miles plus 212 in taxes. And he said, once we make the booking, then we can see the time limit of when or how long we can hold it for you. So then, then ends up saying like, hey, it's February 24th right now at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be able to hold this for you until February 27th at 1700 hours, which I guess would have been 5 a.m. I guess Eastern Standard Time. But now that I think about it, it might have been their time, wherever they were, but probably, yeah, I don't know, probably Eastern. So that meant I had a little bit less than 3 days. So I had about 63 hours, I think was the total, if my time was correct. So I was like, oh, this is a godsend. Thank you so much, man. This, I have no idea what this means to me. So that was amazing. I didn't know that was possible. So for those of you who are worried and maybe points are in the ether right now, have no fear. Some airlines will allow you to hold a flight. So something to consider. So that's where some of my worrying started, because, well, even though I had this timer, this cooldown of like 63 hours, I was like, okay, but now I'm reading online on Reddit threads that some people said like, oh, it came in at the 24-hour mark, 36, 48-hour mark. Mine came after 4 days, 80 hours. Some came after a week. I was like, I can't, what's going to happen? Like, am I able to actually like hey, can you put it on hold again? Like, they're probably not going to do that. So I was just worrying the last couple of days. That's all I've been thinking about. Is just like, oh my God, is this going to be able to go through? Like, I really want this flight, like so badly. I want this flight. Sure enough, the average was 36 hours on the Reddit threads, and 36 hours later, my points have arrived into my account. It's about midnight. So I was in bed with wife and not doing anything special, but I said, hold that thought, babe. I gotta go into the office and I gotta book this flight because I need it now. I'm not gonna risk any issues and whatnot. So I got right on the phone and I actually recorded this entire call, which I may release at some point. I'm not really sure, but I did this whole call with the lady, and essentially it was fairly easy. There was a couple of little quirks in between that wasn't that big of a deal. They basically told me like, "Hey, here's the flight, 174,000 miles, but now you have to pay $1,300 in taxes." I was like, "No, I'm not doing that. I see a flight right now for 200 in taxes. I'm not paying the extra 1,100." They eventually transferred me. They got it figured out, and then yes, they were able to right on the phone deduct the miles right from my Emirates account to fully, and they took my card over the phone to fully book out this flight, to which now I have a fully booked out 2 business class tickets, A380 Emirates. If I have to say it again, I'm just really excited. And so you can see it right here on my upcoming trips. And if you hit manage, you can actually see some cool things. Now, here is where you can see some cool things. Now, I want to block out all of the personal information, but I never seen this before. And I saw a la carte meal menu. I was like, oh my goodness, we could just check the meals that we're going to be able to get on this flight. Are you for real? And I'm looking at the light bites, all these different things. I'm looking at the breakfast. I'm looking at the beverages, the mocktails. And then they actually have a section here for the bar that's actually on the plane in the back for business and first class people only. We're really moving up in the world, and they have some stuff like this. So I think that's really, really cool. And I was going to choose my own tickets, but the person on the phone actually booked this literally the perfect seats, I find, because my wife was afraid that she wasn't going to be directly next to me here. So the one she booked for us was actually ended up being perfect. We were right next to each other. If you guys are noticing this, there's a spider hovering right above me. Got him. You guys must have just seen my face. Legit, a spider just came down right from the. There's not even a vent up there. Anyway, all right, we almost just got bundled up into a spider web. All right, so back to the flight. So yes, she picked these seats for me. I said it was perfect because my wife was really afraid she wasn't going to sit next to me, and we could actually do a 3D tour of the seats. I can't. Look at this. Lay flat. We got a little thing right here where we can have some food and stuff. And I guess this is where the meals are going to be. Got some headphones below us. She's going to be right there. Simply insane. And I never thought, and look at this, you can actually hit the lights. Look at that. You can turn the lights off, baby. We're going to bed. What is this? Is this the onboard? Oh, I can go to the lounge. Oh, baby, I didn't even know. Look at this. Oh, you know I'm going to be back here. I might even try to go live if they have good enough Wi-Fi. Imagine Anthony Venture going live from the bar lounge on Emirates. I can't. I can't. I really can't. It's too much. And sadly, one thing I did realize is that if you book business in first class, you actually can get a personal chauffeur to drive you within 50 miles. And I was quite literally thinking about booking the Park Hyatt in Milan, which happens to be within 50 miles of the airport, which would have been perfect. But I found that I think that only applies to the cash ticket buyers. So people who literally spend $11,000 and not 174,000 Amex points, Emirates miles. So that sucks, but I was really hoping for that. But what can you do? And one little trick that someone actually mentioned to me is that if you hold, I think it was Tom G in the Discord, he actually mentioned that uh, at check-in when you go to Emirates, you actually can have the option to upgrade to first class if they have it available. So you want to have the points in your account ready. So this way, when you get to the gate, you don't have to transfer and again wait 36 hours for your points to transfer. So this way, it's ready and you can upgrade to first class. And first class literally has like a shower. Like there's a stand-up shower in first class. So I might actually do that. I might keep the points in my account just in the off chance that that's possible. And yes, I did look it up. Those first class seats is literally $22,000. It's double. Insane. Absolutely insane. And so even on top of that, considering we are flying business class, we actually have access to the Emirates Lounge, which is quite literally in the same terminal, obviously, but in the same terminal as the Emirates boarding. It's insane. It looks like it's right next to it, right in Terminal 4, I believe. And I'm really excited to explore the Emirates Lounge as well. I think that's going to be super awesome. And that also leads me to like, man, who needs a platinum card right now? It's like I'm not going to be flying, business class. So I have access to this lounge. It's going to be cool. I have the Ritz Carlton card now, which can give me sapphire lounges and stuff. So like, and yes, I have a whole video on the Ritz unboxing and a couple little plays with that, which will come out after this video. But so yeah, once again, I'm probably going to consolidate all of this info from the business class flights once I actually book the return flight as well, and a lot of the hotels. So be on the lookout for that in the next week, I would say. But really, I say all this to say is like, yes, I made a mistake. And it was coming from a place of ignorance, and I really thought that things made sense in my head at that time of the video. But having gone through this experience, and with the help of really the smartest people in the world in the venture capital Discord, and all you guys who comment, who have told me all these things over and over and over, I sincerely thank you. And even if it takes me a while to figure it out, I hopefully eventually will. I will let you know on camera so I can look like the dummy so you don't have to. And hopefully you guys can learn from my my failures or my mistakes and stuff like that. So thank you guys for always being here along the journey. I'm really excited to finally go. It's been too long. It's been too long. But thank you guys for being here all the way to the end. It really means a lot to me and everybody who shows up. So yeah, just enjoy, have fun. Let's go explore the world together, right? So thank you guys again. Have a good night and just have fun. All right. Take care, guys. Bye bye.